Alright, I'm bringing another remaster back. Remaster of What If Broly Wasn't Invincible. Wasn't Invincible. What If Broly Was Invincible, Episode 1. Alright, let me know what y'all think about the story. Let's get to it. On planet Vegeta, the birthing chamber hums while twin creaks open. King Vegeta looms, pleased that his heir had finally arrived, but unfortunately he was born alongside a mutant infant with a power level that spiked past 10,000. Yet the king's pride soured even more into fear because his court began to whisper about the boy. Broly eclipsed the prince on every scanner, and he didn't want to risk the wrath of Frieza either. So Vegeta pronounced the unthinkable sentence. This child is not to be jettisoned to the frontier worlds like Vampa, but to the rifts. Send him to the rifts, a forbidden lattice of spatial scars that pucker around the edge of the galaxy. Courtier's branch. The rifts are to like black holes what razors are to kitchen knives, pockets where physics fold and time frays. No scouter, no pod, no Saiyan has ever returned. A single word from the king sends royal guards swaddling the infant in shot foam, locking him inside a sand pod and sending him on his way. They launched the pod on a suicide trajectory straight to the nearest rift. Paragus storms the launch bay just as the pod disappears. Rage overrides protocol. He commandeers Beats' maintenance skiff, a battered scout-class craft meant for asteroid surveys, and without clearance he punches the throttle, tearing through the atmospheric shields and clipping a tower in his ascent. Beats is caught refueling the tanks and is yanked aboard mid-flight as a captive. Screaming about flight logs and fuel rations, Paragus ignores him, eyes fixed on a hollow tracker that blinks crimson. Broly's Capsule 7 Trajectory Rift Alpha. The skiff's warp core howls at 130% output, hull plating already glowing. Beats protest that the rifts are cosmic graveyards, and Frieza's own cartographer stamped that the void was something to avoid. Paragus snarls at the seemingly cowardice, ignoring Beats entirely. Inside the cockpit, warning sirens shriek about gravitational shear, but Paragus keeps accelerating with his knuckles white on the yoke until they get to the gateway. Behind them, the gateway seals with a soundless clap, leaving no trail for even someone like Frieza to follow. The capsule tumbles through a tunnel of violet fire and bursts in the calm galaxy sky. It arcs downward, crashing through jungle canopies thicker than dreadnought armor, carving a molten furrow across the island that should not exist. Broly's cradle skids to a stop beneath a colossal gnarled tree, whose trunk pulses with bioluminescent veins. The hatch hisses open as the infant crawls out, tail flicking, eyes wide at the primitive chorus of roars. This was Monster Island, an uncharted landmass on Invincible's version of Earth, where kaiju scale mountains and rivers run with radioactive algae. Overheard pterodon-like beasts with crystal-like wings circle, shrieking warnings to creatures that are below. Broly toddles through the ferns that bleed emerald sap, unafraid, drawn by the thrum of the distant thunder. Tightened footsteps, he reaches a clearing where a fallen alpha beast lies past his primes, with his ribs jutting out like a cathedral of spires. Curious, the child presses tiny palms against the carrion. Residual energy begins to crackle, and the corpse's flesh knits, reanimating just long enough for the beast to groan before collapsing again. The island itself seems to excel, acknowledging an anomaly now bound to its ecosystem. Broly curls beneath the Leviathan's claws and sleeps, the first Saiyan lullaby hummed by monsters. Paragus' skiff bursts through the same violet membrane, hull scorched and engine sputtering. The craft spirals over Monster Island, sensors fried, but Beats spots the fresh crater in the sand pod half buried in lava rock. They land hard, skidding across obsidian black sand that hissed under the heat shields. Paragus leaps out, tearing away scorched armor, calling his son's name into the vanna of towering mushrooms. Beats scans with his cracked scouter for a power rating, but everything is erratic, leaving into red zones before flating, indicating that a child whose ki flares and vanishes like a storm. They trek in the inland looking for ultrasonic frequencies. Dinosaurian roars answer Paragus' shouts, but none are the cry he longs to hear. Night falls and the moon rises, and it paints the jungle into a color of cobalt. Bioluminescent predators stalk them until Paragus fires ki blasts, vaporizing them through the vines. And then eventually they're able to find Broly, who is alone behind a dying beast. And Broly only tilts his head, pupils flickering between innocence and a berserker white as Paragus kneels, as the boy is covered in the blood that is not his own. Paragus and Beats freeze at the lip of the clearing. Broly, barely 3 years old, was shirtless with his skin painted with monster blood, stands over the shredded carcasses of a horned wyvern whose wingspan once blotted the sun's light. The child's eyes were gone, replaced by milk-white lenses that glue with raw, unfiltered power. Every muscle quivered, veins pulsing almost neon green beneath his skin. With a guttural roar, he rips the beast's tail free and swings the ton-heavy appendage like it was a flail, pulverizing rocks into powder. Paragus feels his own power dwarfed by the tidal wave radiating from his own sun. Beats' teeth chatter. One of his scouters began to melt from the boy's intensity, its plastic slagging down his cheek. A misaimed swipe sends shockwaves that uproots ancient mangroves. The displaced air hits the two men like a freight train, slamming them into a boulder. Broly's gaze snaps toward the sound for a heartbeat long in eternity. The island holds its breath, predators fleeing, insects muting, volcanoes vibrating mid-eruptions. Paragus raises trembling hands, whispering lullabies in an old Saiyan dialect, the same cadence he used when Broly was swallowed in the palace's nursery before he was sent off. The boy's lips twitch, the white recedes like a surf, pupils return, round and confused. A single tear cuts through the grime on Paragus' face. Broly drops the severed tail from his hands and takes one tentative step, then another, until he stands before his father. The ground cracks beneath his bare feet, but when he reaches up to touch Paragus' cheek, the touch is feather light. Beats exhales a prayer to the forgotten Saiyan God that they didn't feel this kid's wrath. In the aftermath, Paragus fashions a cave camp beneath the Leviathan's ribcage. Nights are spent teaching Broly to speak again. First words lost in rage, while days become hunts. The boy learns the monsters are meat. He roasts stegosaur-like creatures, size ribs over geothermal vents, seasoning them with sulfuric salts that sting the human tongue, but delight the Saiyan's taste buds. Beats keeps inventory, hides for blankets, bones for tools, and scales for armor. Broly's power grew geometrically. Every dawn he battled with island titans, returning at dust smeared in guts and grinning. Paragus records the fights on a cracked data pad, awestruck at his son's base strength, surpassing even the elite class adults. They also discover that Broly can survive atmospheric re-entries, burns by reflexively coating himself in an emerald bio-aura, and that his tail, when gripped, can calm his berserker episodes, almost like a biological off-switch. Months blur into seasons. Beats teaches the boy to read using scorched fragments of Saiyan scouting reports found in the wreckage of his ship. Paragus carves Saiyan glyphs into obsidian tablets, telling heroic lies about Planet Vegeta to anchor Broly's Saiyan heritage and to make him more obedient to his lineage, more so to him. When the first Cyclone season hits, they shelter inside a large beast skull, Broly curled between the two men like an oversized cat. Thunder shakes the island, but the child sleeps soundly, scorched by the rhythm of Paragus' heartbeats and Beats' off-key lullabies about constellations. Neither will probably ever see those again. But in the quiet, Paragus begins to plot, not of rescue, but of conquest, seeing in his son the key to a throne amongst these new stars in a new universe. Some years roll by, the island reshapes itself around Broly's footprints. Beats was restless and tired of being confined to only this island of monsters. He finally confesses that this place was a cage, There has to be more to this world than just monsters. Paragus, however, worked tirelessly, obsessed with secret schematics etched in the cave walls, and waved off the complaints of Beats because he didn't care if he came or went. But Beats had already made up his own mind. One dawn, he flew off the island, leaving a note wrapped in Broly's old baby clothes that he was leaving. Beats landed in Denver, Colorado, in the United States. Cecil Stedman's agents surround the flying anomaly. Beats raises empty hands, reciting his name and a story too wild to disbelieve. Test follows, treadmills, blood draws, physics probes. Cecil offers a deal. We can't take you back to your home, but we can give you purpose. And Beats accepts, trading Monster Island Solitude for a blue uniform emblazoned with Earth's emblem. Training begins at the Global Defense Agency, combat tactics, as well as learning diplomacy. He logs missions, stops bank robbers, kaiju cultists, and even a rogue Martian probe, each victory carving a new muscle memory into his once rusty frame. Within 2 years, tabloids dub him Mr. Beats, the monkey alien guardian who smiles between punches. Paragus heard from afar via satellite signals from arts of his old ship with his jaw clenched, realizing that this pawn, who was seen as really no one back in their world, he had dismissed him too, now walks among the locals in high regard. These earthlings must be pathetic. Beats' reputation swells like a monsoon. He masters Earth's media game, doing morning show interviews, charity boxing matches, viral clips of him bench pressing city buses for children's hospitals. Guardian's missions escalate. He teams up with War Woman to shatter a dimensional invasion. Learns off-world information from Martian Man, and he spars with Immortal until both collapse laughing. Each battle refined his energy control. What once erupted as wild bursts now tightened in focused beams because he had such a low power level. But now he was getting his gains up. All right, he was able to focus his beams and slice through tank armor. Cecil got him a house and a citizenship. Tabloids speculate on his alien origin. Was he some type of alien prince? Maybe an escaped gladiator. But Beats kept his Monster Island location a secret, and his other Saiyan inhabitants were a secret because of that, honoring the boy that he had left behind. During downtown, he haunts libraries, devouring Earth's myths, finding strange parallels between Hercules' labors and some Saiyan rites. Sun Wukong's tale seemed very Saiyan-like as well. In 2 years, he stood at Guardian headquarters, accepting a medal alongside Darkwing and Black Samson when he was still on the team. Cameras were flashing somewhere in the cave. Paragus listened to the broadcast, fingers drumming on plans for a control caller. Beats was unaware, and he raised a glass to his absent friends as a toast to the Invincible. Paragus abandons the island shelter, driven by visions of conquest. He decides he's going to traverse Earth's underworld in search of better parts of technology for his master plan, trading monster scales for schematics, as well as being a hired muscle for payments. He reverse engineers Saiyan tech salvaged from Beats' old skiff, weaving neural dampeners and biometric shackles into a crown of thorns. Each prototype tested on lesser beasts, but they fail. Broly's rage would burn hotter than any sedative. Undeterred, Paragus sinks deeper, aligning with enemies of the Guardians of the Globe. Months blur into a couple of years. His hair begins to gray and his eyes sink, but his obsession is still sharpened. He orchestrates accidents, train derailments, chemical spills, just to observe the Guardians' response times, mapping Beats' patrol routes like a chessboard in shadow cathedrals. He uploads Broly's fluctuating power signatures into AI simulations, predicting berserker thresholds down to microvolts. A final design emerges, the chain of subjugation, a halo of neural filaments keyed to Broly's unique Blutz wave patterns. Paragus tested on himself first, enduring seizures and nosebleeds until the device learns restraint. Satisfied, he transmits a single encrypted burst to Monster Island. Soon, my son, the world will kneel, and you will wear this collar. Then he vanishes into Earth's night, leaving behind cave murals of conquest and a father's hollow echo. Left alone those couple of years, Broly grows more feral but not completely unthinking. The island becomes his crucible. Each dawn he wrestles tyrant lizards whose roars could shatter stone, learning to blunt claws with key-hardened forearms. He befriends a colossal known as it was the Hail Mary kaiju that battled Omni-Man in the series, feeding it schools of bioluminescent fish in exchange for makeshift swimming lessons. When berserker rage takes him, triggered by storms, hunger, and loneliness, he rampages across volcanic plains, uprooting forests and carving canyons with errant blasts. Monsters flee into deeper caves. The island itself seems to exhale sulfuric sighs at his presence, reshaping rivers to guide his destruction away from fragile nests. In calmer moments, he sits atop Alpha Beast's skull, carving crude star maps into bone with his fingernails, wondering why he was left here alone. He invents games, hurling boulders into orbit to watch them streak like meteors, racing tidal waves until he outruns them. His tail thickened as well. It was more like a muscle-like cord of living steel, and his power signature fluctuated like a heartbeat on monitors, Paragus that left behind. Years pass, the boy becomes a legend, whispered by unfortunate ship crews that came too close to the isolated, almost mythical island and saw some of his deeds firsthand. Then, one day, Beats returns under a cover of dusk, landing on the sleek obsidian sand of Monster Island. He finds Broly, taller, wild-haired, eyes wary but not hostile. It's time to leave the nest, kid, he says gently, extending a hand. Broly hesitates. He glances back at Hail Mary, waving his face tentacles of farewell, then grasps Beats' wrist callous, warm and friendly. The flight to America is silent, except for Beats' quiet stories of cities and schools and soft beds, and Cecil Stedman meets them in the sub-basement, eyes calculating but not cold. You want public schooling for an alien that can lift a semi-truck? Bold, he mutters. Yet paperwork flows. Within days, Broly stands in a suburban driveway, backpack too small across his shoulders. Mark Grayson jogs past, earbuds in, nearly colliding with the towering new kid. They lock eyes. Mark was curious, Broly guarded, before they both walk into their shared elementary classroom. At the regional elementary, during morning recess, a 9-year-old Mark fumbles with his juice box as 3 older kids corner him laughing. The lead bully began to speak in a demanding tone. Give me your lunch money, Freckles. Mark flinches in fear. But from the jungle gym shadows, Broly appears, lanky and silent, with hard eyes. Broly spoke a short sentence. Leave him alone. Lead bully taunted him. Or what, new kid? Broly steps forward and the bully swings, but Broly catches the fist in his palm, with his open palm. A faint green spark flashed and then was suppressed. But you could hear the sound of knuckles creaking. The bully began to panic. Let me go! Broly released. The bully stumbled, with his face white. The pack scattered. Mark stared, his juice box completely forgotten. Mark timidly spoke. Thanks? Broly just nodded and walked away, his sneakers squeaking because he was still unused to walking in them. Mark watched him the rest of the day until the bell rings, whispering to himself, who was that? Who is this new kid? And after school, Broly informed Beats about what happened with the bully, and he smiled and decided it was time for him to make a friend. Beats parks a nondescript SUV with Broly behind him and a backpack slung over one shoulder, his eyes the tidy lawn. Debbie answers the door, puzzled. Beats, your son met my nephew today. Thought they should hang out. Debbie calls Mark. He rushes down, eyes widening at Broly. You're the kid from recess. Broly shrugged, almost smiling. Then, minutes later in the living room, they sit cross-legged on carpet, trading comic books. Mark shows his Spawn issue #1, and Broly traces the hero's suit with his finger. You ever read these? Broly said, "No, but I used to write on bones." And Mark laughed, assuming it was a joke. Debbie brings cookies. Broly devours 3 in one bite. The ice breaks. They race to the backyard with improvised capes made out of bath towels. Weekends become rituals. Video games, rooftop stargazing, Mark's endless questions. One humid afternoon, sprawled on Mark's bedroom rug, Mark says, "So what do you want to be when you grow up?" Broly shrugged, carving absent spirals into carpet with his finger. Mark props his chin on his hand with his eyes bright. "I'm going to be a superhero. Like Omni-Man, the guy you see on TV, but a little nicer. Save people, punch bad guys, fly through space." Broly listens with his head tilted. "On my island," he says slowly, "monsters just try to live. Sometimes they fight, but mostly they just protect their own." He pauses, searching for words. "I think I want to protect my own too, but not sure how." Mark grins. "That's what superheroes do." Broly frowns, tail curling. Beats says heroes wear costumes. "I don't like costumes." Mark laughs, tossing him a spare hero hoodie. "Start small then." Broly sniffed the fabric and shrugged it on. Sleeves comically short, symbol stretched across a broad chest. They descend to the backyard where Mark practices his takeoffs, not able to go anywhere because he doesn't have his powers yet. Broly watches, then crouches and leaps, clears the garage, lands cat-footed. Mark whistles. "Dude, you've got powers?" Broly looks startled and then sheepish. Then they spend the afternoon with Broly leaping the fences. When Debbie calls them for dinner, they collapse on the grass, panting. Mark whispers, "Promise me, whatever happens, we look out for each other." Broly nods, solemn. In the twilight, two boys trade dreams like secret handshakes, unaware that Omni-Man the whole time had been eavesdropping after Broly had hopped the fence the first time. Regional highs, fluorescent halls, swallow Broly whole. At 16, he's grown tall, and he's tall enough to duck under door frames, but the press of bodies still feel like a cage to him. Mark had just now got his powers in secret. He buzzes between lockers, trading fist bumps and weekend plans. Broly lingers at the edges with his wearing his black jacket, his tail tucked painfully under his belt. Girls whisper about the quiet, cute giant who eats lunch alone on the roof, sharpening a boken he carved from kaiju femur. Algebra is a foreign tongue compared to the grunts of monsters. The bell's shrill shriek replaces volcanic thunder, and fluorescent lights bleach the memory of Golden Island sun. Teachers mistake his silence for defiance, assigning the tension that he serves by staring out windows, counting contrails like migrating dragons that were on the island. Mark tries to loop him into group hangouts, but Broly's smile stiffens. Around people, and he never shows up to any of the group meetings, choosing to rather be solitary. Mark's powers ignite like fireworks. First flight, first punch, first stop of a robbery. Nolan's training was brutal. Orbital sparring, asteroid dodging, lectures on Viltrumite heritage. Mark returned home limping, but his eyes were always shining. Beats notices Broly watching from the curb in his jacket, shadowing his face. Later, over protein shakes, Beats broaches the subject. "Kid, you're stronger than any Guardian. Mark will need backup out there." Broly scowled. "I don't want to fight people. I don't want to fight people." Beats leans in, voice soft. "Sometimes fighting's how you protect." Reluctantly, Broly agrees. They train at dawn on Monster Island's abandoned shore. Beats uses Guardian drills, evasive patterns, joint locks, and energy control. Broly learns to pull his punches that can level buildings. To channel rage into pinpoint strikes, Mark was unaware of this, so he texts his friend Broly about his sore muscles. Broly replies with emojis of flexing arms. Weeks blur. Beats teaches him meditation, sitting atop a dormant volcano. Broly breathes in sync with magma pulses, feeling the planet's heartbeat. Progress shows he can now leap with sonic boom. He can now leap without causing sonic booms. Lift a freight ship without bucking the hull plates. And meanwhile, Mark was mastering his flight under Nolan's glare. Both boys lied to each other about just doing gym workouts, while bruises tell truer tales. One evening after Broly accidentally shatters a training drone, Beats claps his shoulder. "You're ready." Broly stares at trembling hands. Ready for what? Beats doesn't answer, but eyes linger on news alerts about rising global threats. Somewhere, Paragus' satellite feeds were adjusting projects for his final calibration. Mark unveils his Invincible suit after Omni-Man had taken him to get a costume of his own as Invincible. Meanwhile, in a Denver dojo, Beach straps pads on to Broly, teaching him basic combos, a jab cross knee, and Broly's knuckles dent reinforced steel. Beats winces but applauds the control. They spar under artificial light, Broly learning to pull the tsunami back that was within him to a ripple. News feeds scroll behind them about how the Guardians stopped the Mauler twins, and Beats laughed. "I knew they didn't need my help against them." The Guardian signal blares at 2:13 in the morning. A priority summons to the headquarters. Beat suits up, cloak snapping like a battle standard. Broly was roused from his sleep, offers to come along. Beat shakes his head. "Man, it's probably nothing, kid." He taps on Broly's shoulder, a fatherly gesture that lingers awkwardly, and then he tells Broly he's proud of his progress. And he knows he's always holding back because Broly is way stronger than him. After all, he was probably one of the weakest Saiyans in their original universe, but here he could make a difference with his powers. Especially since he'd been training, he'd been making some gains. He also tells Broly he's proud of his progress and takes to the skies, not even looking back. At headquarters, a team assembles. Immortal, stoic, war woman sharpening her weapon. Green Ghost fades halfway through the wall, and Darkwing's voice crackled. "Unknown intruder of a high threat level." Beats feels it, a familiar presence. Then Omni-Man descends, his cape pristine, smile thin. "Goodbye, old friend," he murmurs to Beats. And the first punch caves in Darkwing's chest. As the blood paints the monitors, Beats' heart hammers. This wasn't a drill. He radios an encrypted SOS to the nearest tower, but only static answers because Omni-Man had already taken it out. And one by one the Guardians fall. Omni-Man moves like liquid death. Beats holds the line when Immortal's head hits the floor. Beats knows the truth. It was over. But he was going to make it hurt on his way out. HQ's atrium has become a morgue of broken icons. The fluorescent strips flicker like dying stars as Beat wipes blood from his face and squares off against the traitorous Viltrumite. Omni-Man hovers centimeters above the floor with his boots humming, his cape untouched, his eyes cold with appraisal. Beats' pulse drums in his ears. Training montages, sparring scars, the smell of Denver's dawn air racing through his memory. And then he charged with his fist forward. First exchange, Beats feints left, corkscrew right, knee aimed at Nolan's liver. Omni-Man parries with a casual forearm, but the impact still rattles the reinforced window. Beats ricochets off a pillar, flips and drives both feet into the Viltrumite back, sending him skidding across marble. Nolan counters before friction finishes its sentence, vanishing, reappearing behind Beats. Elbow already descending. Beats twist, catches the bone on crossed forearms. The shockwave cracks the floor to bedrock. He grits his teeth, channels ki into a point-blank palm blast that turns the air ultraviolet. Omni-Man absorbs it with his skin steaming. He absorbs the blast. They trade body blows like metronomes. Beats' fist blurs emerald. Nolan's glow a faint white. Steel beams buckle. Ceiling tiles rain like confetti. Beats ducks a hook that shaves plaster off a distant wall. Answers with a spinning heel kick that actually snaps Nolan's head back sideways. For one heartbeat, the Viltrumite looked surprised. Then he lunged, grabbed Beats by his armor, and hurled him through 3 floors of rooms. Monitors explode. Beats comes off a vault door, denting it like tinfoil. He coughs up blood. Then he wipes it and grins through split lips. I'm still standing. They rise together with eyes locked. The next clash already crackling between them like heat. Lightning before the storm. Because somebody had to die first for this fight to be over. Beats lunges burn. Every rib is fractured like xylophone. Omni-Man advances with his boots clicking through puddles of emergency sprinkler water and coolant. The Viltrumite's knuckles were raw, but his breathing was quite steady. He was a predator certain of his kill. Beats gauged the distance to the shattered skylight overhead, 60 meters. Vacuum on the far side. Enough. He floods his key channels, feeling them light up like magnesium ribbon. Muscles swell beyond ligament tolerance. Skin splits along scars, releasing threads of blue-like fire from his body. Omni-Man hesitates, sensing the spike. What exactly are you planning? Beats lunges, arms wide, and locks around the Viltrumite's torso in a bear hug that cracks Nolan's sternum slightly for the first time tonight. Omni-Man thrashes, elbows hammering Beats' spine, but the Saiyan's grip is welded shut by his sheer will. Beats smiles as he thinks of Broly in his final moments. Your turn, kid. Then a blue light erupts from every pore, a miniature star born in the ruins of his heroism. The explosion blossoms upward in a perfect sphere, vaporizing concrete, shredding titanium support beams, punching a column of fire through the roof into low orbit. Silence follows in a crater where the atrium once stood, edge of steel, molten glass at its center. Omni-Man lies half submerged in slag, his costume all but incinerated. Flesh charred, black, except for his raw Viltrumite tissue that was already knitting itself back together. His eyes flare open, alive, but stunned. His lungs were rasping up ash. High above, drifting embers swirl like snow. Somewhere among them were bits of the Saiyan armor, glint and fade, carried away on the wind that now whistled through the broken halls of Guardian HQ, where Omni-Man passed out unconscious and badly burned. So yeah, I hope you guys liked the first episode. I know it was kind of long-winded how I was reading, but I wanted to try something new. Let me know if you guys like that. If you did, you already know, man. Like, comment, subscribe, all that. Peace.